everyone, welcome to my kitchen. I'm a classically trained pastry chef, a wife, and a mom of two. I've worked in famous bakeries, Italian truffle sales, and in the wine world. Like you, I'm super busy with my job, my husband, and my girls, so I like to make cooking as fun and easy as possible. Here, I'm going to teach you how to bake and cook without a fancy degree. We'll pair wine with meals, good coffee with cakes, and everything in between. So grab a cup of coffee, pour a glass of wine, or sip on your favorite beverage, and I'll meet you in the kitchen. Today we're making focaccia. It's a super simple recipe, and here's what you need. Bread flour, yeast, salt, honey, and olive oil. And that's it. I'm going to be using a medium-sized bowl to get my yeast rising and mix my ingredients. And then I'm going to use a large bowl, and this is where the dough will have its rise. So the bigger the bowl, the better, because you allow it to really get nice and big before we go ahead and fold it. This is a recipe I learned. My husband works in hospitality, and he worked with a pastry chef a few years ago. And she taught me how to make this when we were on a weekend away in Maine, and it has been my go-to ever since. It turns out so delicious, and I make mine in a cast iron skillet, so it gets this like crispy crust as well. It's so yummy, but it's really easy, and I always think like bread is so difficult to make, but you'll see with some time, because you need some time for rising, but with some time, it really is the easiest recipe. So let me show you how to do this. First, we're going to start with your little packet of dry yeast. It's a 1/4 ounce is one packet. And we are going to mix this with some warm water and some honey. The honey helps activate the yeast, as does the warm water. The water has to be lukewarm, not hot, because you don't want to kill your yeast. But yeast is the coolest thing because we'll show you, but it starts to get like creamy and bubbly and all funky, and it's alive and it looks alive. So we'll show you as soon as it gets going, but let's go ahead and get some lukewarm water from your tap. Works fine. So you need 2.5 cups of lukewarm water. And right before I put that in, I'm going to add my honey. It's 2 teaspoons of honey, and whatever honey you prefer. I just get this local hive because I really like it. I think it has nice flavor. But here it doesn't really matter what it tastes like. It's just going to make the yeast, give the yeast some fuel to start really working. So now that the honey and the yeast are in the bowl, we're going to add the 2.5 cups of lukewarm water. And now we just gently whisk that until the honey is all mixed in, and then we're going to leave this to sit for 5 minutes and see it come alive. All right, so I've let my bowl sit for 5 minutes and the yeast has done its job. It's gotten creamy and looks a little bit more bubbly. You can see that my yeast is alive. If your yeast is not doing this, make sure you check the expiration date. It might be dead. So get yourself fresh yeast every time. All right, so now that this is ready to go, we're going to add our flour. I like bread flour. I use the King Arthur bread flour. It's a little bit of a step up. I don't know. I feel like with flour, you got to go a little bit more expensive when you're doing bread and focaccia because the flour is the star of the show. So the King Arthur bread flour, I really recommend. It's this like chewy texture and it's just the perfect flour for focaccia. So we're going to add 5 cups to our yeast, water, honey mixture. Now we add 1 tablespoon of Morton salt. And then you just mix the dough together with a rubber spatula until a shaggy dough appears. So a shaggy dough, it just means that you're going to see it kind of, I don't know, it looks shaggy. I don't know how to describe it. So it's not going to be a perfectly round ball. It'll kind of be like stripy. You just want to make sure all the water incorporates itself into the flour so that there's no dry flour left. And you get this kind of like messy looking dough. And that's fine. This is a no-knead focaccia, really. So you're not going to be really manipulating it much. The yeast and the flour just kind of do the job for you. You'll see we barely touch it later, even after the second rise. So just the rubber spatula does exactly what you need it to do, mixing in that water, and you see the dough starts to really come together. See what I mean? It's shaggy. It looks kind of like messy, but that's what you want it to look like. Okay, Now that the dough looks shaggy, there's no flour left behind, you can put this to the side for just a minute as we get our other bowl prepped to transfer this, because your other bowl is going to be where this goes for the next 5+ hours. Now in our large bowl, we add 4 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil to the base of the bowl. I know it seems like a lot of olive oil, and I'm going to let you know there's way more olive oil to come. That is the key to a good focaccia, is a lot of olive oil, and this one in particular, a lot of butter too. Now we've got the 4 tablespoons of olive oil in the bowl. I hope I put 4. I wasn't really paying attention. I think I did. I'm sure it's enough. And now we add our shaggy dough right to this bowl. Now we'll just coat the bread in the olive oil. Make sure it's nice and all over, even on the sides. And I form it somewhat into a ball. Now is the fun part. You can either put this in the fridge overnight and put plastic wrap over the top, and that can go in for 8 hours up to a full day, and you'll see it over that time go slow rise, and it'll double in size. So once it doubles in size, then it's ready. If you don't have that time and you're home all day, you can just set it next to a warm oven or in a warm place and leave it without any plastic wrap on top for 4 to 5 hours. So that's what we're gonna do, because I have a lot of other stuff going on today. So I'm gonna let this just rise on its own for the next 4 hours and see where it's at. And as you can see, we have this beautiful bottle of Prosecco chilling, and it's gonna be a perfect pairing with the focaccia, but we'll talk about that later. It's been about 5 hours. My dough is risen. So let's get the pan ready so that we can transfer the dough into our cast iron skillet. So I love using the cast iron. I love how beautiful a big round focaccia looks. It's just really impressive to serve your family or your friends a focaccia in a big cast iron. It looks so pretty. But like I said before, you get this like crispy crust, and that is also due to the amount of butter and more olive oil that I'm about to put in here. But you want to really ensure that A, your focaccia does not stick, and B, the butter will allow it to rise really nice and high while it's baking, because it'll just like slip right up the sides. So I'm going to generously coat it in butter. I have room temperature butter here, and mine is salted. I think with focaccia, you might as well go ahead and use salted, because we're going to put all of our herbs and spices on the focaccia before putting in the oven, including salt. Make sure you get the sides as well, because you want this puppy to rise. So if you don't have a cast iron skillet, that is okay as well. You can use a 13x9 baking pan. You just might get a little bit of a thinner focaccia, and nothing is wrong with that. It's just a different shape, a different texture. If you do have the cast iron, I highly suggest you use it. But if you don't, a baking pan, you're still going to get some nice fluffy focaccia, especially with that bread flour. It kind of ensures that texture for you. And it might seem like a lot of butter, but the more butter, the better for this one, is what I've learned. So now you're completely covered in butter up the sides and everywhere. And now we're going to add 1 more tablespoon of olive oil right in the middle of that pan. And now our pan is ready for our dough to be transferred. So let's go grab our dough. Now I'm going to show you how to turn the dough now that it's risen. So it's a no-knead focaccia, but you do still have to fold it before we transfer it. So now we're going to do this in 4 sections. So we're going to take the section furthest from you and turn it right into the middle and push down. And that's good. Turn the bowl, pull the section furthest from you right into the middle, push down. Same again. Push down. We're going to do this 5 times here, but 4 to 5 times is fine, as long as you're getting all the pieces furthest from you in. Oh, mine's actually 6. That's okay. 4 to 6, depending on how big your hands are. Okay, Perfect. And your dough is formed. So now we're transferring this ball into our prepared pan. So when we're putting the dough in, we're going to put it the side down with all your folds. Gorgeous. And then I'll just kind of shape it slightly, get it even. All right, so now this is gonna sit next to either a warm oven or just in a warmer spot in your house for at least 1.5 hours up to 4 hours until this is completely full and risen and fills your pan. And then I'll show you what we do next. Our dough has risen. It looks beautiful. I've had it sitting next to the warming oven for about an hour and a half, and it got nice and big, and you can kind of see like it's a little bit bubbly and feels a little bubbly. So now we're going to do the finishing touches before we put it in the oven. To finish this, we basically like play piano on the focaccia. So you stick your finger in, and you have to stick your finger in all the way down to the bottom of the pan. You're not going to punch a hole in the dough. Dough is like really glutinous and it's quite strong. So you sticking your finger all the way down is not going to ruin the dough. And you need to do that in order for it to get that signature focaccia look. And so that it's not rising like crazy all out the pan. So we go around and just stick your finger all the way down into the dough, all over the dough. So if your fingers are getting stuck or it's not letting you kind of go in, just put a little bit of olive oil on your finger and it helps with making sure you pull your finger out nicely. There we go. I got it. Especially around the air bubbles, you want to pop them as much as you can. Just again, so you're not over rising. Now, if your finger is not making the hole, if it kind of like springs back and it's not staying in that form, your dough isn't ready. So you want to go ahead and put that back, let it rise a little bit longer. But this dough is perfect because the holes are staying put. Once you poke kind of evenly around and generously throughout, you're ready to add your topping. So you can top with whatever you like, really, but I have my like signature spice mix that I love to use that to me makes the perfect focaccia every single time. But first, before I put those on, remember I told you it was a lot of olive oil? So 1 more tablespoon of olive oil. So this is going to help all your toppings stick, and also you're going to get that like nice, beautiful browning on top. So just evenly drizzle your olive oil over the top. And then what I like to put on, I love this McCormick Himalayan pink sea salt. It is such a nice blend of spices. There's some black pepper and garlic in here as well. This is my favorite, so I'm going to put mostly this on, and then a little bit of rosemary, and finish off with a tiny bit of the Maldon sea salt, but not too much because the other salt is already there. So I just generously sprinkle the top with my seasoning and add some rosemary. A couple pinches is perfect. And then finally, some of that nice flaky Maldon sea salt. And now this gorgeous focaccia is ready to go in the oven. I have the oven set to 450 degrees. You put this in the middle rack for 20 to 25 minutes. I'm going to check it at 20 and see where we're at. Our focaccia was in the oven for 25 minutes. It's got this gorgeous golden brown and like crispy top, and it just looks so beautiful. And especially in the cast iron, it just gives it this extra rustic look in the cast iron. I just think it's so beautiful. And you can serve it right out of the cast iron if you're bringing this to your dinner party. You can have your meats and cheeses out, your focaccia sliced in the cast iron with a little bowl of olive oil on the side with some spices in it, and you've got yourself a perfect little antipasti. And what goes better with antipasti than Prosecco? So I have this Prosecco. It's an extra dry. So my one qualm with Prosecco is a lot of times it's just a little bit too sweet for me personally. I like a little drier style of my bubble. That's why I tend to lean towards champagne or cava. But this Prosecco, because it's an extra dry, it's going to feel more like that. So just the difference between Prosecco and Cava or Champagne is that Prosecco is done in what we call the Charmat method. So the bubbles are manipulated to occur versus Champagne or Cava, where the bubbles are happening in the bottle. So even though both you're getting the nice crisp bubbles, a Champagne or a Cava, you get this almost like yeasty taste, where Prosecco is going to be a little bit cleaner. So a really nice wine to serve with antipasti and any type of light bites. And it pairs with everything. You could even serve this with dessert. My trick to opening all bubbly is you keep the cage on when you're opening. That way you're not popping the cork all over the place, and it allows you to get a really good grip on the cork. And you can do a nice little tiny whisper of an opening. I remember watching a Martha Stewart and she's like, it must whisper. So instead of popping, mine popped. Martha would hate me. Whatever. Martha, don't watch this. This is an Asolo Prosecco, and it's from Bele Casel, and it's a DOCG. So DOC versus DOCG. DOCG is just an extra step up in quality, and they're picking the best grapes, is really what that's saying. So I'm excited to taste this one. Extra dry, and it's in my little coupe. I love my bubbles and coupes. I just think it looks so fancy. Ooh, that's delicious. Nice and citrusy, really fresh, bright, and clean. Okay, let's cut into our gorgeous focaccia. Just this beautiful, fluffy slice of focaccia that I'm gonna go. You know how much oil we used in this? Well, I'm gonna drizzle it with a little bit more oil because why the heck not? And then sprinkle with a little more sea salt. And it's still warm. Oh my God. I'm just gonna bite right into it. I can't even explain to you how good this is. It's that good. Perfect pairing. Oh, delicious. This is one of my favorite recipes. I can't even explain the texture that the bread flour gives us. It's so thick and chewy and just gives this like perfect denseness to it as well. And the seasoning on top really comes through. My rosemary is shining. It's just delicious. You're going to love this. Perfect to bring to a party, perfect showstopper when people come over, or just showstopper for your family on a normal Tuesday night. Enjoy. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Cheers.